Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Once again, it's time for current events in the online fitness community. I guess this is an ongoing current event. Let me show the forearm here. All right. This is kind of something that I saw in my comments in a video that I put up this morning that I had recorded about a month ago. Put it up this morning, and there was some commentary back and forth, and people kind of pointed out that, they're like, well, Shawn Baker and Jordan Peterson are kind of responsible for the popularity of the carnivore diets, and I'm going to say a few things about that. Because in that case, I'm going to jump into Peterson second. The thing is, yes, they are probably the two largest figures that have made this horrifically stupid, bad diet popular. And the problem is, first of all, people will say, well, you've got Shawn Baker and he does this, that, and he's a doctor. It's like, yeah, but here's the issue. If you have a doctor who does some fringe stuff that is not their specialty, that everyone disagrees with, and the people who specialize in that area medically and in obesity ward and clinical trials and everything else, if those people think it's ridiculous and wrong based on their data, that MD doesn't carry real weight there. And that's been the scary thing with fad diets. Fad diets have been an ongoing thing. They'll get endorsed by a medical doctor. And even though the rest of the medical community, the dietetics community, everything else say, yeah, no. They'll push it, and then it's used as a selling point. That's marketing, guys. This is called scam artists. This is called charlatanry. And some of these doctors run into problems with the medical review boards and stuff over this nonsense. Okay, and that's something to keep in mind, number one, right? Number two, what I see people say then, well, they see him and he's pretty buff and pretty strong compared to the vegans on average. And it's like, okay, but you have carnivore and vegan are two sides of the same coin. They're both crazy ass extremes. They're both crazy extremes. You don't take one crazy extreme and go, yeah, people really struggle to gain muscle and get jacked on this extreme, so the other crazy, unbalanced extreme must be the way to go. Okay, because that's not good anecdote either. Because guess what? There's way more people on balanced diets, bro diets, all sorts of stuff. Way more who are jacked and buff and strong. Stronger and buffer and jackeder than the carnivore people. You see the issue with that anecdote? That's the same thing, when vegans prop up their rare individual who is jacked and strong and everything as proof their diet can work. Okay, that's not how this works, because by and large, neither of these groups are producing the biggest, strongest, fastest, most jacked athletes. They're just not. And by that same token, it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to compare a group that struggles with protein intake and protein bioavailability, which we know massively impacts body composition, right? And compare it to a group who eats huge amounts of protein. Well, yeah, as a demographic, they're probably going to have better muscle mass and body composition just because of the protein intake, not because they are specifically carnivore, just because their protein intake is so much higher. Well, that's a no-brainer. That's a plus to say, hey, eating high protein will probably help you be more jacked than really low amounts of protein bioavailability. That's all that says. That is also not a support of a carnivore diet. Not when balanced omnivore diets produce even better results consistently in a much larger demographic. Okay, that's nonsense. It's not how this works. All right. On to the thing with Peterson. This is the thing of, I don't know a lot about Jordan Peterson. I know he's extremely controversial. I know multiple people who love him and hate him. I don't follow his stuff. I don't care. Okay, let me just throw that out there. I saw some of his early work and I thought it was okay. And I'm talking 10 years ago. Okay, well, yeah, it's all right. It's not bad. There's some decent stuff in there. I don't necessarily agree with all, but there's some decent stuff in there. And then I really didn't look back. I didn't look at what he did later because I'm just not interested. I don't care. But I am aware of the backstory with his daughter and putting her on a carnivore diet. But let's be realistic here. Carnivore diet is not a cure for autoimmune issues. In some cases, maybe it might be helping. But here's the thing. There's other things that will probably work too. The problems we run into are the long-term health consequences. It's like you're possibly getting, and this is the way one of my friends who does nutrition research also has said, they're getting some short-term relief in the exchange for the long-term side effects. So it's like a short-term reprieve because they're changing some things and some of the autoimmune is going down, but then they're creating the other problems. Things like the gut flora extinction. These are real problems that happen down the road when you've been on that sort of diet a year, 2 years, 3 years. You're not eating any fiber, not eating any vegetables. You can have gut flora extinction. It can be very problematic to reverse. In some cases, it's irreversible. Not going to go into the details on fecal transplants and things used to try to reverse that. But it's problematic. This is not a good dietary approach. And so the thing that people say, well, okay, but they're doing better on it than they did on other stuff. They should probably be looking at some other stuff and consult a dietitian again. Because the issue is, yes, whatever their autoimmune issue might be temporarily controlled by it to some extent. Okay. But those other health effects are going to really suck when they kick in, such as, again, the other GI tract problems that happen in the long term on that sort of diet. Once they kick in, they're going to be just as bad as the autoimmune stuff eventually that they've had to deal with. Okay, we're running into, again, when the cure is possibly just as bad or worse than the disease, this is a problem. There are other approaches they need to consult their specialists with. And you can't say, I've tried everything. No, maybe you haven't. So it's, again, problematic. And the issue is that someone like Peterson has promoted this, and then thousands and thousands of people have picked up this sort of diet because they listened to him. Maybe he should step up and I don't know if he's done this or not. Correct me if I'm wrong, if any of his followers. So if he has, I apologize. But maybe it's a point where ethically he needs to step up and go, maybe I was really out of line. I shouldn't have been promoting this really bad dietary approach. And please don't follow it because I was endorsing it for my daughter or discussing her journey. I don't want that on my conscience, because if he doesn't, then people say, well, you know, the net bag, good and bad. Because look, everyone does good and bad. All of us, every single one of us does some good stuff and some bad stuff in our lives. All we can try to do is balance the scales. But here's the issue there. That is very clearly having harm. Okay? And that's the point. It's one thing if you do something silly or bad that only hurts yourself. It's another thing when we do silly and bad stuff that really causes harm to potentially thousands of people. That's a point where we as individuals are ethically, I believe, bound to step up and say, hey, let's try to correct that. Okay? And that would be my point to him. He should probably do that. And if he already has, then hey, he's already taken my advice. That's the best that we can do in life. Well, maybe he should have maybe stepped up and said, nutrition wasn't really my area. I really shouldn't have promoted this crazy ass diet in a way that other people felt the need to go on it. And, you know, people's health is long-term health could be suffering as a result of this. My bad. I apologize. Please don't follow it. See how simple that would be? Does that remove all accountability? No, but it helps. That's how we help balance the scales out. That's all we can do in life. Because I don't like or dislike the guy. I don't have really much personal opinion on him. You know, some of you love him, some of you hate him. That's cool. That's your opinion. You have a right to that. The dietary end I've got a problem with, since he is largely responsible for a really bad fad diet being promoted that's harming the health of thousands of people. I think he should do something about that. My opinion doesn't mean that I'm right or wrong. Not speaking facts. That's my opinion. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and and I'll talk to you guys next time.